Okay, welcome to kind of a last minute impromptu live stream for a Friday afternoon. I thought we had quite a bit of stuff happening this week, and so I didn't think it would hurt to jump on and see who is around and if we could have a good discussion about Logic Pro. What really kind of pushed me to do this was the announcement of the new Final Cut Pro updates for both Mac and iPad, which came out earlier. We're not on the same cycle with Logic Pro that we are with Final Cut Pro, but they did what I was kind of expecting them to do, which is they had to update the iOS and iPad apps because of the new, iPhones, the 17, and because of the new iOS and iPadOS 26. And so there's new functionality with those, and so we're expecting potentially something similar for Logic Pro coming out soon. I doubt it'll be a big update, but we take all of the updates with open arms and excitement because, it gives us bug fixes at the very least, and maybe some new features. We can talk a little bit about the iPad version of Logic, which desperately needs a couple things with the new iOS 26 or the iPad OS 26. And there's some stuff with the Mac version which wouldn't hurt as well if they were going to just do some small tweaks. Of course, we'll get a much bigger update when we go to like 11.3 at some point. But you never know. Maybe they've been working really hard and fast and giving us some stuff that we're not even knowing about. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Let's start with looking at one of the big rumors that was coming out. This is on an iPhone 16 page. Let me switch over to my other screen, and you'll see what we have here is a list of all the built-in apps. I wonder if I can make this bigger. Those graphics, maybe a little bit. And so here's a bunch of icons that was leaked last week, maybe before 26 came out. So nothing like super, didn't come out this week. Hey, Plastodon, thanks for joining. But this was out and somebody noticed it at some point. And what we have here is a GarageBand right in the middle of the screen. This GarageBand icon is not like one that is currently attached to any of our music software. So the iPad and the iPhone GarageBand icon currently look like this. So we'll compare those for a second. You'll see that the new one is taking advantage of the new icon style with the glass aesthetic that we have. And so it looks similar in terms of the shape and the concept. It's still a guitar, but we have a very near photorealistic one there. If we look at GarageBand for Mac, you'll see where this came from because it is similar to that. And so what we're looking at is potentially a brand new icon that has leaked out. This is the official Apple website. But it's not actually there yet. So somebody put this up before it was even released out in the wild. Cool. What does that mean? Not much, except that clearly they're getting ready for GarageBand update, and the Logic currently for both Mac and for iPad still have their old icons, which are not part of the new aesthetic, the design aesthetic that Apple has for all of their apps. So we're going to get an update. Whether or not it is a simple update or a bigger update, that's what is to be seen. So for instance, with the Final Cut, and we'll talk about that for a second. Final Cut release notes. These should pop up at the top. This was the update from today, just a few hours ago, 11.2. So they went up to a new number. They were 11.1 since like March. We've had a couple smaller ones along the way. They don't do, in my experience, they don't do as many 11.2.1s. They do them, but they don't do them quite as much as we even get in Logic. So the 11.1.1 was in May. Nothing from May all the way until September, and they went to 11.2. Yeah, they're not doing updates as much as we are, and that's okay. It's just part of what it is. But they got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items in a 0.2 version. So does that mean, as people fear often, that Apple's not really interested in these pro creative apps? And we're just getting like little bits and pieces here and there when they feel like it. And of course, the big stuff, they're focusing on things like Apple Intelligence and their phones and so forth. Well, who knows? The big release this week came out earlier this week with Mac OS 26 and 26 across all the devices. And I updated to it before with one of the release candidates, and then did the official update when it came out earlier this week. And it's been working fine. I haven't noticed any crashes. All of my software that I use is still working. That's not going to be the case with every single person in every single situation, but so far so good. And I love that about testing things out when they work. Because I think that there's a lot that could go wrong with it. But they only got a few different things. They did get a full update to the iPhone, the Final Cut camera app. That went up to version 2.0 and had some new features. But a lot of this stuff, right this moment, is because we have new hardware, new phone hardware. And with new hardware that can do different things, Final Cut needs to be able to access those improvements. And so now they can. And they got a lot of quality things. So there's these new ProRes RAW capture abilities. So it's cool. Some of the ProRes ability was already here before. I can capture ProRes, I believe, RAW on my camera as long as I have an external drive connected, and I got a drive for that, so I could do it. It works really well. I wish I could record all of my video and photos to an external drive instead of having to move them, but you can't. But that was really good. I mean, they are still improving every single time. Things like the camera, and then that trickles down into Final Cut needing those changes as well. So what is it about a new phone and new operating systems that Logic needs to be updated for? Well, I made a short list of 0 things that we really absolutely have to have to make it work. And so there's nothing that's going to force Apple to update Logic for this, except for maybe the icon if they want to keep the aesthetic the same. But otherwise, I'm guessing there will be something coming out in the next couple weeks. But is there something that's like an emergency update? Not at this moment. It's working okay. The thing that I thought of the most would be for Logic Pro for iPad. There's a whole new menu bar functionality in iPad OS 26. And right now, Logic Pro it uses like one drop-down menu, and it's like just a list of like really generic things. And so it's barely using any of the functionality in iPad OS 26's new feature set. And hopefully that will actually update. Now, there's a chance that we'll be forced into waiting until there's a new iPad or a new Mac of some sort before they do either updates for either of those pieces of software. So we'll have to wait and see. At the same time, I thought this was really interesting. This is the first Pro app update on a Friday in a very long time. So I wasn't even checking the update cycles today, because usually Fridays are just a throwaway day. Um, and so to release Final Cut on a Friday means that probably they needed to do this for some of the functionality. Maybe somebody they're getting their new phones and wanting to use the functionality, and it's not working, or they knew that it wasn't going to fully work, and so they're like, you know what, update Final Cut, but don't do it too close to 26's release. They're very careful in their timing of releasing things. I'm assuming that's partially because they don't want everybody. I mean, that probably don't want to, excuse me, steal me thunder from 26, but at the same time, they're riding the 26 new feature list, and so it makes sense. I don't know. But it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare that we'll ever get a Logic Pro update in the same week as an operating system update, etc. It's pretty rare that we'll get a GarageBand one at the same time as Logic Pro 2, because I think they try to spread those things out and get the press coverage just right, with people talking about them. Although, with Logic, it's interesting. There's like 6 to 10 YouTube channels with any decent amount of subscribers. I'm not even talking about my own, that cover Logic Pro. It's not like one of those huge social media draws, right? It's just not. Let's be honest. We can't compete with cute cats. We can't compete with people falling off buildings. We can't compete with hardly anything when it comes to social media. And so it's a pretty niche, small, professional audience that's really interested in Final Cut in the first place. Okay, let me catch up with some comments. And do comment. I'm curious on what everybody's thinking about stuff. Plastodon says, unless there's something I couldn't live without, is the only way I would update the OS or Logic. Everything is working solidly. And that's not a bad rule of thumb, right? I mean, if things are working, why fix them? I was thinking this week about the state of Logic Pro in general. I'm doing this series where I'm writing songs for an album project, something I've always wanted to kind of do. I've done songs, released songs, worked on songs, written songs for TV commercials and movies. It's like I've done a lot of stuff, but I've never done like just a whole album, partially because I'm busy doing a lot of things. My full-time job is as a professor of audio production, and so I'm busy. I do stuff. I got kids and plans and vacations and all kinds of stuff. I really like my career, and so the YouTube stuff is kind of like frosting. It's my chance to talk to people like Plastodon on the regular, and get excited about that with my peers out in the field and doing that. that's why I do YouTube. I don't make money off of YouTube. I make a little bit, but it's not like a revenue source, and it's not something that I'm like, ooh, I wish, or I'm expecting to go independent and be wealthy based off of what I do on YouTube. That's never been like the goal. If it ever happened, then we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. But a lot would have to change about my channel for that to happen. I'd have to start talking about things that everybody besides the core group of YouTube enthusiasts who use Logic are interested in. But, so long story, even longer, right? I was looking at Logic and thinking, what is it right now that I would change? It's a good question. What is it about Logic right this moment that I would change? Right this moment, we already have a roadmap. We already have a roadmap of what's next. The roadmap is what's on Logic Pro for iPad. Unquestionable. There's no way around it. What's on the iPad version is coming into the full version for Mac. Unless the development team is insane. right? Because why would you develop two products like that and keep them completely separate in some ways? No, there's got to be this convergence at some point. And one of the big things, of course, is the convergence of the browser. Right now, the library in Logic for Mac is horrible. Ugh, horrible is a hard word. For many years, it was fine, right? It's like what everybody had. It was the thing. It was the thing that we all had. And so, now other workstations are improving how the browser works and can do more and more things. And yeah, it's time. The browser on the iPad version is better. Is it perfect? No, but perfect is hard when it's on the iPad screen because they're dealing with a bunch of different layers of issues. They're dealing with screen size, they're dealing with just a touch interface all the way from beginning to end. Sure, you can add a mouse and a keyboard, but I would guess most average users are not hooking up a mouse and a keyboard when using Logic on the iPad. If I'm going to pull it out when I'm sitting at the couch with my pair of headphones, I'm just going to use the touchscreen. So they're dealing with a different set of needs, but they made it a lot better. I can audition things in there easier. I can hear what they're going to do. There's still room for improvement on it, but it's a lot better than what we have in the library and the Mac version. So they're doing that. They're finding out what's working and what's not working. And in fact, the user agreement explicitly states on the iPad version of Logic Pro that data of usage is going to be sent back to Apple so they can track how it's being used. The user agreement on this version, on the Mac version, does not say that, and it says it will not be sending data back. So I'm sure they're wishing more and more people would use the iPad version. They can collect more and more data. That way they could say, you know what? We've been tracking all of the use of Logic on the iPad, and not one single person has ever used, some feature, right? And so then they're like, why would we develop that further if 0 people are using it? Well, if they find out that everybody's using the tiles and really loves them in the iPad version, and the tiles in the iPad version, amazing. It's like one of my favorite things about the iPad version. That not only did they design them well, but they look cool. I guess that's kind of a design function, but they're just smart all the way through. And you can easily go into them and make additional changes if you need more advanced things. We have the smart controls, these 8 things here in the Mac version, and the tiles blow that away. They just do. I mean, they just blow this function. Maybe they built upon this conceptually, but they made it look better. They make it work better. And now I want them on my Mac version. I just do. Don't tell me I can't have something, right? That's how this economy works. And so tiles, the browser, 2 things I really want. I want them for my main Logic station. What else do I want? Well, I want a guitar player, session instrument. I want the session instruments to give me a guitar player. That's one thing. If I'm going to be doing songwriting in the sense that I'm going to write a bunch of songs and do them in this ecosystem, it doesn't matter if I'm going to take them from beginning to end in Logic or if I'm going to take them from beginning to song and then actually work with professional musicians afterwards to add parts. I want to be able to use the guitar as a sound without having to use loops or without having to use a third-party thing that has to be updated whenever the other company wants to, and they can break it easily. Tiles, Alonzo Nunez. The tiles are part of the Logic Pro for iPad, and I wish I'd brought my iPad down with me. So we're going to do really quickly, because you're asking, I will pull them up on Apple's website. and I'll show you a picture of the tiles. They're just little, well, they're little tiles. It's actually a really descriptive term. And like I said, I will pull this up here in a second. Give me a second. And I will find a photo of the tiles. Okay, here's a photo of the tiles. I gotta be really careful on here. So this row above the keyboard, those are the tiles. So we have the performance pads for alchemy next to Chroma Glow. And that has the model, the drive, and the style. And then we have Chroma Verb with decay time and the wet amount, and then an EQ. And so they're being smart about what information we get. They're trying to use the most used parameters or the most useful parameters. When they first released this, how would you know which are the most used? But now, hopefully, dear God, hopefully Apple's collecting data on what people use the most on the iPad version, and they can update this each time. So they can say, you know what, we've noticed no one is using these things on the tiles. Let's switch them out for other parameters that we know people are digging deeper to use. That's where data becomes super useful, right? It becomes useful in the sense that if they track what people are using or people are having to use workarounds to use, then they can replace the things that aren't being used with the things that are being used, and it gets better. Whew. So those are the tiles. Let me get my comments back up. And so when a space is on a premium, then those tiles become super useful because you have a visual of everything that's there and you can swipe through them. And it also has the vibe, the aesthetic that is really cool when working on things. And I'm interested in the aesthetic, the vibe of what my software does. I have worked a number of years in post-production video in a different life, but there was none of this design function around those pieces of software. We were getting there with maybe DaVinci Resolve, but even then, it's like the tools are sliders, knobs, but none of this fancy graphics and extreme color in there, because when you're working on a project, you want the actual video that you're editing to be what draws all the attention. Well, we don't have that. We don't have the visual video unless you're scoring something. But even then, the audio tools and the sound doesn't have a visual aspect. We get to listen to it. So at some point, we decided that we needed really good-looking software. And I can't tell you how many times students at my university, bless all of their hearts, but they'll pick something based on the look of it. You know what I mean? Everybody assumes that Pro Tools or Logic or Ableton or even Reaper or whatever, FL Studio, they're all like, these tools all are going to sound about the same, right? And it's true. They all sound about the same if you're using them. So the look of it does become important. And if I'm working with somebody else, I would love to have tiles on my main page of my Logic for Mac, because then I could go through and there's a lot of information I could see in one glance instead of, having to dig for it. That's cool. Why not? Why not add that in? It's obviously working in the iPad version. But we don't have that as much in here. I will say, if you have the extra cash sitting around and you're a Logic user, you should get the Panorama CS12 from Nectar, the channel strip controller that works natively with Logic. That is like my tile. It sits like right here in front of me. I think I have another camera here. We can actually look at this. It might be upside down. Well, maybe if I do that. Station. Oh, it's upside down. This thing. I love this thing. It's off right this moment. The more things when I'm live streaming that I turn on, the more questionable things can be. But this thing is worth every penny. So you should, if you're using Logic, this thing becomes like a tile. You go through the channels, you see all your plugins here with information, and you can easily grab knobs and start tweaking things. This thing is one of my absolute favorites. And so, shameless plug, I'm not getting paid for that. But I'm a big fan of the guys, the people over at Nectar. They seem like really interested in good products and giving what people are asking for. Alonzo says, so it would replace the channel chain on the left with the blue plugins and everything. It could. I mean, that's the part we don't know for sure. But I think that there's a lot of potential. In fact, this is going to be revolutionary for some of you to even think about, but I'm kind of tired of software teams developing our tools just to look like the analog world. It's like, yeah, great. We have, let me go into here. We have a mixer. And we get the long fade mixers, and everyone goes, ooh. It's like a feature I could have lived without the rest of my life. It's cool, but there are 1,000 other ways to create a mixing environment that doesn't have to look like this. And instead, the innovation is just a little bigger of the one we had before. I don't know. It's like, let's do something different for once. Let's not have a mixer that looks just like an analog mixer. Now there's a reason that we might have a mixer, right? It has those little hash marks, tells us how loud things are, and loudness is critical. But again, there's other ways to do this. But I'm afraid I probably won't be around to see that kind of innovation, because what they're really doing is aiming this at my generation and above, all the people who grew up in a world without this software doing all of this, so that we look at it and feel comfortable with it and can work in it, and more importantly, spend our money on it. And so I don't know if they'll ever change that basic aesthetic, but they could. And if they did, whichever software platform could do the feature set that we have with something like Logic. So Logic can do everything, right? There's only a few things it can't do. And those few things it can't do, we can get third-party things to do. Apparently, one thing it can't do is run anything with ARA. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. I don't know what the holdup is there. There's going to be some serious parties and drinking when Apple finally decides to get compatible with ARA again, if it ever happens. So who knows? But it's just, I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to be in the development world. I wouldn't want to be head of a team that's building Logic for the masses. There's no way to win that. Everyone's going to want something different. But as I'm using the session players and the chord track, there's some things that I wish would be tweaked, but I'm loving it. I think it's great. It is not like Suno or some other AI engine that's doing all the work for us. It's really hard. It's really hard to get the session players to sound really good. But you can. And that's the magical part to it. So you can actually make the things sound good because they're powerful. The drummer is more powerful than ever. The keyboard one is very deep and powerful. And I did a video earlier, like yesterday or the day before, about the big flaw that I was using the keyboard player earlier this week, and it just kept on sounding wrong to me. And it's because when you use some of the common tones and the right hand voicing, it's actually adding notes to your chords that don't belong. So that's a bug fix that we could get, make it sound right. But now that I know what it's doing with every single one of the voicing options, I can work around it and get it to sound exactly how I want. The bass player, in my opinion, is phenomenal. With all of them, I want more styles, more genres. Sure. We haven't really got many new genres lately, but hopefully they've hired some serious like metalheads and um, some people who understand what jazz is all about and give us some of those. That would be cool. I'd love to be able to incorporate some other world styles into my music without having to like do it in a roundabout way. Cool. But so adding a guitar is possible. I think it's just a matter of having the right people in the room, sitting down and making patterns and making sure that they sound good, and giving us endless options. Because that's what it takes. You can't just do like a guitar that does like 6 things. You need to actually be able to do stuff with it. The instruments would have to be sampled or bought, by somebody out who does cool guitar stuff, and then just tweak it to fit in the Apple ecosystem. You got enough money? Seriously, make it so. Number one. So I there's but overall, Logic for me in the past like 6 months never been more stable. I really went through and curated all my third party plugins so that I wasn't just letting stuff sit in there causing issues. That helped. But Logic as an app, it doesn't crash. Maybe once a month, maybe, and that's probably because I was doing something stupid. And the core engine to Logic sounds great. The effects sound great. Uh, there's dynamic EQs and things that people talk about and really want, and sure, there's some potential there for growth. But if you're finding your music can't be done with just a traditional EQ, then you're on the wrong planet, because some of the best albums in the universe were made with really simple sculpting tools. You don't need all the fancy stuff. If you find yourself reaching for all the fancy stuff all the time, then you got to work on the actual music. I got to work on the music. I don't find that Logic is my limiting factor whatsoever. I think my own creative voice needs an upgrade. You know what I mean? That's why I'm doing like my streams where I write music. It's not because like I'm trying to show you that I know everything, because I don't know a ton of things, but uh, I like making Logic my main engine for creativity. And each time I do a song, I get better. I'm getting better at stuff. If you're working in there, you're getting better. That's the whole point, right? It's not about perfection. It's about this journey that we're on. Okay. But it's great. The timing engine, the flex engine in Logic has never been better either. It's incredible. The way that you can bring in a track and it will analyze it and it gets it right most of the time. That didn't happen 10 years ago with anything. And so you can pull in all these elements. The sampling parts of Logic don't get talked about enough by people. But we have, all of the sampling things. It's like at some point they said, we want to have the best set of sampling tools in any software, and they do. From the auto sampler, which is incredible, to quick sampler to alchemy to sample alchemy, to all the timing functionalities, to be the drum machine designer, to the step sequencer, to live loops. I mean, it's no piece of software out there is better at this. Even the stem extractor is getting better. I'm expecting another round of that next update to just get better. If it's the worst now that it will ever be, it's already pretty good, and it's just going to get better. Better isolation, and then you can sample from those. This is the thing. But updates take time, and new features take time. And time is one thing, it turns out. And any of you who are younger are going to discover this, and all of you who are my age or older are already becoming keenly aware, right? At some point, you'll be using your last Logic Pro version. Hate to be the one to tell you this, but you're mortal, right? I'm at the phase where I'm like, I want to create some music. And I know my tool. I know Logic. I know it really well. If you were to say, hey, professor, do this in Logic, right off the bat, I would know if I could do it or if I couldn't do it in Logic. I could tell you that instantly. And then if it can be done here, I could tell you exactly how to do it for every single thing that you would ever ask. Because I've spent the last 10 years plus, 10 plus years, my first version of Logic I bought in, that was a while ago, 2001, so 24 years ago. And I didn't know that it was going to be the journey that I would be on the rest of my life. Because even at that time, I was in college. I didn't even know I was going to become a professor. I wanted music. I wanted to do music. And I was super pumped. But the thing is, all along that journey, it's like the tools have gotten better and better and better. But we just crossed over a threshold. We crossed over a threshold where the AI stuff can do all the music for us. And it's really shiny at first. It's really shiny. You can put in some lyrics that you want, and you can tell it what style to do it in, and you think, man, that's right. If I had done this myself, that's exactly how I would have wanted it to sound. And that, to me, is one of the saddest moments of anybody's life, when you think, this just did exactly what I would have done. It's not true. It can't even be possible. There's no way that if you had done it that you would have wanted to sound exactly like that. It just kind of filled the end result for you before you even went on the journey. But I can tell you, if you do your own song and you come up with something that's really great that you love, it's totally different feeling than if you had AI do it for you. Now, I explore the AI tools all the time. There are times that I don't have time to do a song. I was doing a study abroad with my students this past summer, and something funny would happen, and I would type into Suno, prompt that represented what had just happened that was funny with the students, and then send them all an MP3, and in different styles of music, and everyone laughed about it. That's fine. I think that's great. I think it's super interesting to be able to use it that way. Think about if you have a kid or a student who has a hard time memorizing things, and you make a song or have AI make a song lyric that's teaching them all of the things that they need to know to memorize, and it's a catchy tune, and then you play it for them, and they can memorize something, and they've learned something. That's an awesome use of AI, right? That's not my creative itch being replaced. That's not people who want to come to my channel being replaced. It's literally, in that moment, a tool that's really cool. The new Suno, which is coming out soon, I've seen some videos now online. I'm in the queue to join the Suno Studio pre-release. I don't know if I'll get in any sooner than anybody else, but I'm hoping. That's for me what I want from Suno, because what it does is it doesn't just do the track or have to be stem extracted at the end. You can build the song on different tracks, and it's like a full workstation in some ways, but they say they have MIDI export. So what I want is to be able to say, hey, give me a metal track that's this long with these instrumentations, right? Cool. All of a sudden they give me some drums in a metal style, which is not one of my natural ability styles. I've certainly listened to various genres that have drums in that style, but if someone said, hey, program it, I'd be like, let me talk to somebody who can do this for us. Because Logic Drummer won't do it. Anyway, I could say to Suno, give me the MIDI for those drums. according to what their website is promising. And I'll have the MIDI tracks and can just dump them onto one of my Logic drummers, and it'll have all the patterns programmed. That's no different in some ways than using the drummer, but I'm not going to say, sing the song for me, which it can do. I just am not going to do that because I want the strengths of the AI without the removal of the human part of it. Would it be better to still hire a drummer in every style? I mean, sure, if you have endless money and want to support the music industry that way, then go for it. But I don't have the money to just hire drummers to do vanity projects, if that makes sense. Cool. Well, there's a few people watching. Give me some other thoughts. How's my new microphone sounding? Can I do a little mic check with somebody here? So this is a mic that a company in China just sent me. I'm going to be doing a video about it next week, but it's replacing my other one, which is had some issues. This is more of a nice podcasting style mic. Does it sound okay? Plastidon, the thing about, so you're saying there's already drum MIDI though. Yeah, you're right. And some of those other ones are going to be able to do the exact same thing. But the thing with the AI is I can just type a sentence and say, hey, I love what you've done so far. In the chorus, can you go a little harder, a little faster, a little bit more complex? And it's going to understand what I said and do it. And so I think that other drum MIDI generators, not saying that they can't do that. And I bet you if they're not already, they're going to be incorporating AI into that workflow. But I would use any tool that can do that. That I could just type something and get the result, and it costs me, $5 a month. Here's what I want to ask though. I'm going to put on, because I've got my solid state Logic interface with the 4K button. I'm going to push the 4K button, and I want you to see if it sounds too SE. It brightens it up a little bit, but I don't know if it's too. I have a natural S to my voice anyway. I just turned on the 4K. Tell me if this is too much S now, or if it was better before. That's what I'm looking for. So, There's a slight delay, I know, but it's not too big of a delay. I think it's like 5 or 10 second delay. So the S's are what I'm thinking. But if it sounds better with the 4K, so the 4K puts it through a process to make it sound like their legacy boards. A lot of albums were recorded on SSL with that profile, but they don't use it all the time. Okay, not noticeable. Okay, well, and Plastidon, without speaking, it's not, I can notice a little bit to me, but I definitely have some of my I'm gonna switch it back for now, but some of my students can hear the high frequency sibilants better than I can. And that's one thing you'll notice as you go through the ranks of life. You get to hear a little bit less up in the high frequencies. Toby says, with this route, which I would love to see in my lifetime, by the way, impede on creativity or separate creativity. Let's see. I think I know what you're asking, Toby, in a way. We have this discussion all the time at the university, and tell me if I'm way off track of what you're thinking here. But we sometimes say, access is more important than process, meaning maybe there's somebody out there who is the most brilliant musical mind we've ever seen, right? Somebody who can understand music, the impact of music, the storytelling of music, but they cannot do music. Like they've never been trained. They weren't able to have any lessons. They can't play any instruments. They can't sing In fact, they can't even really hear pitch all that well, but they can listen to it and understand it in a way that nobody else can. And so putting them in front of something like Suno, where they get to describe what they're thinking and have that engine take their incredible musicality and turn it into a beautiful work of art that nobody else could do with, even with AI, means that it's okay, as opposed to somebody who wants to be a musician and spends thousands of hours practicing and learning and mastering all the techniques so they can do the exact same thing. I don't know if that's kind of what you're thinking or not, but in my mind, I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer to the difference between the creativity and the activity, or even if that's what you're asking. That's what I took away from your question in a way. But um, for me, I clearly am blurring the line some because I like the session players in Logic, and they're not doing anything for me. I mean, if you use the presets on these things, you're going to sound generic as hell. But you can use them if you understand the song form you want and the structure of music, and like a good orchestrator, right? So you're not putting all the stuff in the low frequencies, you're spreading it out so you have things in the different ranges, so you have a balance to your song. I think that those tools enhance or are enhanced with musical skill and practice, and without it, they're kind of dull and lifeless. Eddie says, "What's the quick and dirty rumors for the next update?" Well, the rumors have been relatively quiet right this moment, except what we talked about was the new icon that was accidentally leaked for GarageBand on the Apple website. And so we know that they're working on new icons, which means that they're going to, I think, shortly give us an update of some version that will give us the new icons and some of the new basic functionality for the iPad version of Logic, because it can't really use very well the windowing and the menu bar and the iPad, and I think that they're probably getting that ready. And so I'm guessing we're going to see 11.2.3, unless they did what they did with Final Cut Pro today, which was release a new upgrade to a 0.2, and they gave them like 7 things. So great. I mean, if that's what they want to do, they want to call that a new point upgrade and then give them 7 things, then we'll do it. And Eddie's talking about using Logic Pro on their iPad M4. I'm using it on my iPad Pro M1. I update a little slower with some of the hardware stuff, partially because I'm on a cycle with my job. And so I try to overlap when I can with that cycle. And my M1 iPad is still working really well for most medium-sized projects and below. But I can't use my big sample libraries on my iPad anyway. There's no version for them, so I don't have to face that as much. And now with 26, we have a better file manager. So you can actually have like folders and store things on there in the file manager. It's almost like the Finder. It's like, I don't know if everybody realizes this, but we are so close. We are so close from Mac and iPad OS being the exact same OS. In fact, all the rumor mill right now talking about the new laptop that's going to be powered by the mobile chips that they use in their mobile devices. I mean, that's right around the corner. That we'll probably see that in one of the next big Mac announcements. So that's just like an iPad in a laptop case. And it'll probably have iOS or iPad OS running it all. Why not? It has all the windowing. It has the file structure now in place. It has the resource management stuff in place. We have the Pro apps that Apple does. Every single Pro app, major Pro app, I don't know. They probably have apps don't fall into that huge generalization. But Final Cut, Logic, Keynote, Pages, all of that stuff work in both places. And so it's like somebody at some point on the team is going to make the hard choice and say, okay, I know when we did Final Cut Pro to Final Cut 10, a lot of people stopped using it who were professionals, but we've built all that back over time. Let's do it with Logic. And they're going to just, one day you're going to wake up and you'll have a Logic version that looks like the iPad one. And it'll cost you $5 a month to use. And that's what you'll have an option for. And some of you are going to leave and use something else. And once Apple goes subscription with that, then it'll open the door for all of them to return to that discussion. And then we'll just all want to move to the woods and revert to farming and just give up on technology completely. Good comments from Toby here. While early users will do well with unlocking and activating their creativities, hence I have, okay, yeah. I mean, you're right, Plastodon. It's happening now. It's not bad. I mean, I don't want to live in a world without cars and still have the horse and buggy. That's an analogy that people use too often. I really like having a world that's small instead of really expanded and hard to get places. So I don't know. There are some parts of Logic. So right now, the iPad version would not work for me as my main tool. It doesn't have immersive audio capabilities or even surround sound. Not really. It doesn't have the score editor, which I use on a regular basis because I read music. I don't like reading MIDI. I like reading music. It doesn't have all the third-party people, but that's easy to fix. If people are making plugins that work for the Mac version, it's just a little code tweak away from working for the iPad OS version. Seriously. And so there's just a few things in here that I would need in the iPad version to make it my full version. And Eddie, they talked about, even on the Apple website, in the best practices for developers, they say subscription models are great, but in order to really keep audience members willing and able to pay that, you should plan on doing consistent updates and content value added. And Apple has been horrible with that. I mean, we go months without anything new for the iPad version. I mean, they're like, ugh. I love Apple products. Don't mistake anything I say negative about them as anything but love. But they're hypocrites when it comes to that. I mean, they should be giving us stuff every month. Put a couple people on making new sound packs and new presets and commit to giving us like a preset pack dump every month at the beginning of the month. Just, how much we would all be like, okay, I'm on board. I love this. We got some new things. Do it. Why not? Come on. Just give us some value for that little bit of money we're paying every month or every year. Some of you, you can do the yearly one. I do the monthly one because there's some months that I get angry and turn it off. And so I don't, there's like this threshold. My wife's not watching this. I promise she's not watching this. There's a threshold where I can spend on subscriptions every month that go unnoticed. But if you pay the yearly one, they get noticed. Just saying, you can take whatever you want from that information. Gotta do what you gotta do. Oh man. It'd be the one time that she is watching, but I think she was not watching. And we're like 54 minutes in. I'll just be like, hey, we can watch my live stream, and we'll get in 5 minutes. And she'll be like, let's watch something else. Old people jokes. That's me. Any other thoughts about things? Let me know, because we have a few more minutes here before I'm going to go up and make dinner. It's kind of that time of day. I'm glad the new mic sounds good. Like I said, I'm going to do a video about this one. It's a good mic at a good price. Those videos I do about equipment, it's not, my channel's not an equipment channel. And so the algorithm on YouTube rarely shows it to everybody. But some people who are hardcore about watching my videos will see it. And I'm always into talking about gear that I get that's both affordable and sounds good. Suno, woohoo! And Plastidon, let me look real quick. I'll tell you which day it's on, because it will be on a day. I gotta look and see which day. It will be on Tuesday. Because Wednesday, I got a service appointment on my car. So, and Plastidon, by the way, and for anyone else who is checking out those longer streams, I really hated the song I did this week. It sounded too much like the song in the first week. Even though it was in a different key signature, it's like I ended up using like the same drums, essentially, and a similar harmonic pattern, even though it was in a different key signature. But I just listened back to it, and I couldn't make sense of liking it, no matter what I thought about it. And so this week is going to be, it'll be listed as song number 3, but it's really a revisit to song number 2 and starting over on it. Because I'm not going to just like make crap that I hate. I might make crap, but at least it's crap that I like. But that one was both crap and one I hated. And so we'll be starting over. Same words, but I'm going to go a different direction with the song arrangement. And I might use some more like synthetic type drums a little bit, or a rhythmic pattern. But it's just like, that's how it goes when you make songs, especially in a pressure situation like a live stream where you're working on a song. I don't prepare those things in advance. I don't actually write out the song before I sit down on those streams. I never have with any of my streams ever like written out a song and then pretended to rewrite it, which is why some of them work and some of them don't work. That's music, right? And so that one, I had some thoughts about it, but when I actually started doing it, it just, every time I was doing something, I was like, this doesn't, if you go back and watch the stream, you'll hear me say, this isn't working. But it's like, you're so far in, after the stream was done, I actually got to listen to it and tweak a little bit of the levels. And then I was like, I hate it. And so I'm going to start that one over and go in a different direction from the beginning, and try to actually do that with some more of these songs. Instead of, like, my stuff sounds like me, for better or worse. I do my vocals a certain way with the harmonics, or the harmonies and the textures, but I really want to push myself outside of that. Still have it sound like me, but have it sound like it's in an expanded world rather than just the same thing. Yeah, that was it, Toby. I really hated the bridge. I felt like it was not I like to have my songs start in a place and then build into that. And the song for week 1, I really still like it. I thought it built really nice, and you get to the bridge and you're like, it's an expansion of what happened before. It's not just like a stagnant flat song. in that style. And the second one, it got to the bridge and it was different, but it didn't feel like it was connected. So the bridge should feel like it's like a blossoming of what's happened before in a way. It can be louder or softer kind of blossom, but it should blossom, but it should feel like it's the same cloth, and it just didn't feel like it at all. Yep. Placid on, I should just skip the bridge like I do on song nights. But I like the longer format because on song nights I usually go about an hour, and then I've been doing 2 or 3 hours on these longer ones, and it's good. It's good for me. I'm sure it's incredibly boring to watch, but that's if you get bored by someone writing a song, then once again just use Suno and listen to what it makes instantly, because instantaneous song as opposed to like, and 3 hours is actually pretty short for a songwriting. Some people take years to do a song, or months or weeks. Eh. And Toby says, the question is, would the Beatles have released the song as is in their days? I would love to have been a fly on the wall, but we have been able to in some ways. When we like the Peter Jackson documentary that came out. I mean, how cool is it to watch the Beatles work? I'm not like there are people who are like the Beatles were the best band to ever make music, and I don't fall into that category. I think the Beatles were amazing, but I don't think that I don't like. I'm not putting them up on a huge pedestal. If I met them, I wouldn't be like. I'd probably be awestruck, but it's like I wouldn't want to be because they're like people who just like made some cool songs and just hit that, and the timing was so good with what happened with their whole trajectory. But I feel like there's a lot of people who make music out there who didn't get the right timing, but were just equally as amazing, and that's hard. I hate it when the industry part of the music industry decides what we all hear. And that's why I'm glad we do streams like this. There's a few of you watching right now, and maybe you were pushed here by the YouTube algorithm, but you're the one making the choice to stay on the stream, and we're talking and sorting through some of these things. But it feels a little bit better than maybe sometimes the industry just popping things into your Spotify feed and telling you to enjoy it. Oh man. So we just crossed over an hour. This is maybe a good time. Let's end this like Seinfeld at the peak. And thanks for everybody for watching me rant a little bit about Logic Pro. Once there is an update, any day of the week it happens, we'll be doing some videos about it and maybe even a live stream to talk about it. But it's coming. Something will come eventually. If nothing else, we've seen that. But this is good. Talk to you all later. Thanks for watching, and have a really good weekend.